On the 3rd of March, the Women's Prize for Fiction will announce their long list of 16 books. I love this prize. It always produces books that I just want to read. It has introduced me to so many great authors, and it is one of the highlights of my reading year. Now, last year when I predicted the long list, I just got a little excited researching my video, researching all of the books, and what I thought I was going to do this year is give you a more conservative prediction video based on the books that I have read, and that I think at the very least the judges will be discussing and considering. And in a few days' time, my next video will be a much more wild wish list of interesting sounding titles that I would just like to read that could be on the long list. Now, I'll be reading and reviewing all 16 books on the Women's Prize long list. So if the Women's Prize for Fiction is your thing, stick around and hit that subscribe button. Also, I've just seen that the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction have announced their long list overnight, so I'll give you my thoughts on that at the end of the video. But on with the predictions. The book I'll be most surprised if it doesn't make it this year is Julia by Sandra Newman. Julia is a retelling of 1984 from the point of view of Julia. It has taken a classic novel and given it a feminist point of view. It has both asked and answered questions around marriage, birth control, sanitary napkins, lesbianism. But that isn't all it's doing. It is not just a feminist 1984. It is expanding on the ideas in 1984. It's kind of like 1984 is first year dystopian future and Julia is second. Not only is this novel brilliantly crafted, it is the sort of book that the Women's Prize like. We know the Women's Prize like feminist retellings, but this book is so much more than that. I know Julia will be up against some tough competition this year, but I thought this was a truly wonderful book and I cannot see it not getting longlisted. I would say that this is my pick for the winner this year, and even if I'm completely wrong on all that, I think it's well worth reading this book. Another safe choice for this year's long list is In Memoriam by Alice Wynne. Whenever there's a really strong book written by a woman that is about men, there is always this question, does it belong on the Woman's Prize? I'm not sure where I stand personally on that debate, and I'm not really sure I get an opinion on that, but you only have to look at last year's winner to see if it's possible for a book with a male protagonist to do well at the Woman's Prize. In Memoriam is about two schoolboys who are deeply in love, but neither confess their feelings towards the other, and then they both enlist, fighting in World War I. I think the comparison Wynne has drawn between the posh boarding school that both boys attended and the British Army is so powerful. Also, the way she captures the disillusion and the dark emotions of her characters, the stoicism and the cruelty is better than any book I have ever read about either of the world wars. Such a powerful piece of writing, easily one of the best books released last year. There is a lot of books that I would love to see win this year. There are so many talented authors and great books in the field, but there is one book that really stands out to me personally, and that is Elaine Feeney's How to Build a Boat. I feel like this book was personally written for me. I know a lot of people didn't like it, and I have no idea why. They are completely out of order, but it also has so many high-profile fans, and the readers who love it really love it. I often think a long list just needs one judge to completely love a book. I not only think it's possible, I think it's almost more than likely that How to Build a Boat will have at least one super fan among the judges. This is about Jamie, a boy whose mother died when she gave birth to him. He came across as autistic, but it is never stated, and there are a lot of things that could account for his behaviour. He is bullied at school, where he meets Tess, a special needs teacher, and Taig, a woodwork teacher. All three are outsiders for various reasons, and they form a friendship. Jamie is super smart, gifted at maths, and he wants to build a perpetual motion machine, which he knows is impossible. And this somehow morphs into Jamie being convinced that working on building a boat with Taig will help him in his plan. An emotionally complex book that shows us how society treats people that don't fit in. It is the only book I have ever read twice in the same year, and I would love an excuse to read it in the third time if it gets longlisted. With so much going on in Israel and Palestine at the moment, I do wonder if the Women's Prize might get a little bit political and include Enter Ghost by Isabella Hammond. Even without the political events, this book is super strong and I absolutely loved it. One that I would have been unsurprised if it made it regardless of the conflict in the Middle East. A Palestinian British actress is returning to her childhood home to visit her sister in Tel Aviv. She is going through a breakup or divorce and is between acting roles. While in Tel Aviv, she meets up with a group of actors putting on an Arabic version of Hamlet on the West Bank. A lot of noise is getting made about what this says about how Palestinians are treated in Israel, and I think rightfully so. This book certainly isn't shy on commenting on it, but it's also about a woman in her late 30s, newly single and not sure where her career is going, not sure if she's British or Palestinian, a woman who needs to take the time to figure out who she is, where she's going in life and what she wants from it, which in itself is enough for its own novel. Indeed, this could have been 2 separate books and both books would have been wonderful. But the way Hammond gets both of these ideas, both of these themes to talk to each other and add to each other, it is spectacular, and it is a truly special novel that would be well deserving of place on the long list. 4 books down, I'm going to be matching the Woman's Prize and do a long list prediction of 16, so I've got 12 to go, but I just wanted to do a quick little discussion on who the judges are and what we know about them and their taste in books. I'm actually really excited about this year's judges. Author Monica Alley is chair. She is best known for her 2003 novel Brick Lane, which was made into a movie, and more recently her 2022 novel Love Marriage, which is fantastic. She is a British Bangladeshi author and tends to write about that community in her novels. And she is exactly the kind of author who you would expect to see longlisted for the Woman's Prize, which I think makes her the perfect person to judge it. Of the other judges, the most high-profile judge I can see is Nigerian author Ayobami Adebayo, who is known for her excellent novels Stay With Me and A Spell of Good Things. Much like Monica Alley, she's exactly the kind of author you would expect to see longlisted for the Woman's Prize. I must confess I had to look up who the other 3 judges were, so my excitement is really coming from those 2 spectacular authors. Laura Dockrell is a children and young adults author who has also penned a memoir about mental health, poetry and several humour books. Anna Whitehouse is a fiction, self-help and parenting author who also runs the website Mother Pucker. And Indira Varma has acted in 20 movies and just about every TV series you can think of, including Game of Thrones and the upcoming season of Doctor Who. She's also voiced about 40 audiobooks, including many of the Discworld novels and Christy Lafferty's Songbirds, which does make me wonder if Lafferty's new book, The Book of Fire, will be included on the long list. Not predicting it, just mentioning it. Onto a book that I actually do think will make the long list is Someday Maybe by Oni Narbonelli. There is a little section on the blurb that really sums this book up so well, and I'm just going to steal it. Here are 3 things you should know about my husband. 1. He was the great love of my life, despite his penchant for going incognito. 2. He was, as far as I and everybody else could tell, perfectly happy. 3. On New Year's Eve, he killed himself. And here's one thing you should know about me. 1. I found him. Bonus fact. No, I'm not okay. This one obviously tackles grief, suicide, and widowhood, but it also tackles interracial relationships and what that means in regards to the extended family. Nigerian literature is so hot right now. Actually, I suspect it's been hot for a long time, but we're all starting to notice right now. And with a Nigerian judge, it wouldn't be surprising to see a Nigerian novel make the long list. And this one has both the strong story and the hard-hitting emotions that you associate with both Nigerian literature and the Woman's Prize. Another African nation that's producing a hot load of books right now is Nigeria's neighbour Ghana. And I think Nightbloom by Peace Adzomedi is a really good chance to make this long list as well. This is a novel about 2 cousins, Selesi and Akafora, who were best friends when they were young girls, but Selesi starts becoming hostile, saying horrible things about Akafora's family and breaks off their friendship. Akafora goes to America for university and Selesi falls out of her life. In the second part of this novel, we see Selesi's side of things, and I found my emotions completely manipulated and twisted, and I had to second guess everything I was thinking. This is a book about life in Ghana. It's about abuse, class, and what this book does is make you sympathize with both sides of those discussions through characters. This is a slow burn, but it is a really captivating story, one that has been completely underhyped. From Africa to Ireland, I think 2024 is going to be just as good a year for Irish authors as 2023 was, especially when you consider that the last 3 books I cut from this video were all Irish. I still have 3 more books to join Elaine Feeney to make 4 Irish novels. There's just so many great books by amazing Irish authors getting released right now, and Soldier Sailor by Claire Kilroy is one of them. This is a novel about the change of identity a woman goes through when she becomes a mother, but it is also dealing with the fears she has for her son Sailor, the type of world we live in, and who Sailor may become in the future, and the stresses she is under raising him, the losing of her old self. It touches on mental health, the importance of friendship and shared experiences, feminism, the state of the world, and just about anything you can think of. Told by the way of a mother addressing her son, it is short, poetic, beautiful, and emotional. Sunburn by Chloe Michelle Howarth. This is a coming-of-age novel exploring sexuality and queerness. Plot-wise, this is a fantastic romance, but it is also exploring figuring oneself out, figuring one's place in society out, mother-daughter relationships, class, money, education, the role of women, the pressure to conform, and the desire not to disappoint. This novel has some of the best use of the first-person narrative I have seen. I love it when an author can say one thing and show you something completely different, simultaneously communicating the protagonist's bias and what is going on, letting you know what they don't see. Oh, it's so good. Ordinary Human Failings by Megan Nolan. I've only just finished this book and wow. A 3-year-old girl is murdered. The suspect, a 7-year-old girl from the Green family who moved to London from Ireland and live off the dole and drink too much. She's taken into police custody and we get the background of this Irish family. Why did they move to London? Why did they drink too much? We get to see where the social stigma around them comes from and the ordinary human failings they have that led them into this horrible situation. Dark, super political, and the perfect combination of an intriguing plot and really super intelligent and impactful themes. I have no rationale for including this book on the long list other than it's just super well crafted and a novel by a super talented, super intelligent author. I'm moving away from Ireland, but I'm not moving away from young, up-and-coming, very talented, very intelligent authors who have just released their second novel. And in this case, I'm talking about Eliza Clark and Penance. Clark and Nolan for me represent this next generation of amazing authors coming through. People who we are discussing now and we will be discussing in 30 years' time. Eliza Clark does Unreliable narrator better than anybody else writing at the moment. This is a truly sweeping statement that people in the comments will say, but what about blah, or what about blah blah? Clark has an exceedingly rare talent for the Unreliable narrator, but I don't claim to have done an in-depth analysis to back up that statement. This is a very dark true crime novel in which we are following a journalist as he investigates the horrific killing of a student by her classmates. The problem is we don't really trust this journalist. We're not exactly sure what is true. We even get characters screaming at him, saying that he's misrepresented what they have said. And that gives this novel so many layers. It is a story about a brutal killing of a young woman. It is a criticism of the media, a commentary on dark teenage fandoms, a parody of the sexualization of young and dangerous women, and a look at friendship between teenage girls, as well as a discussion of things like class and capitalism. And it is a novel that I don't think anybody will be surprised if it makes the long list. The Museum of Failure by Thriti Amrigar. You're probably sick of hearing me say the words well and crafted together, but I think the Woman's Prize loves a novel that is well balanced and well crafted. I think that's often the point where good commercial fiction and good literary fiction cross over. Thriti Amrigar is exactly the kind of author that writes to that sweet spot that the Woman's Prize loves, and they do a fantastic job of it. This is a novel about a man who returns to India from the USA with plans to adopt a child. On the way, he plans to visit his mother who is sick and uncovers a family secret. Now, this type touches on a lot of things: parent-child relationship, the stigma around disabilities, especially in India, and the social differences between India and the US. It's just a cracking book. Evil Eye by Etaf Rum. Etaf Rum writes Palestinian-American feminist literature that touches on mental health. It is emotional, captivating, and it deals with some really important feminist issues, the big ones and the little ones. Yara is in an arranged marriage. She has been mostly happy, but as the relationship moves on, she is not having her needs met. She is increasingly expected to be a mother and a housekeeper, and she lets her husband provide for her, but that's not the life she wants. She wants something for herself. She dreams of traveling, and she is losing the battle to live the life that she wants. She is feeling powerless in dictating its direction. It touches on workplace racism, the growing trend of we don't accept racism, and that includes calling it out and standing up for yourself. And it's another book that I think will surprise absolutely nobody if it makes the long list. And that leaves me with 4 picks that I think are just a little bit more risky than the last 12. These are 4 that I think, maybe they're less likely to make it, but they also represent the sort of books that will get longlisted, and they round out this long list nicely. Rosewater by Liv Little. I could be very lazy and describe this book as Queenie, but with lesbian bisexual sex workers. This novel starts with Elsie getting forcibly evicted and made homeless. Not the best way to impress the woman that's just slept the night with her. She calls up Juliet, her bisexual best friend, who allows her to crash at her place. But the issue is the two haven't spoken in almost 3 months. Juliet does some part-time webcamming and offers to help Elsie get started working there. But Elsie is not so sure that's for her. Elsie has to figure out how to get her life back together, repair her friendship with Juliet, talk to her parents again, and deal with a terminally ill grandmother she loves. Queer female friendship is definitely the major theme of this novel, but there's also a lot of social commentary too. The stigma around sex work, drowning in capitalism, the effects of trauma, love, sex, and learning to stand on your own feet again. It also deals quite strongly with homophobia. Talking at Night by Claire Daverly. This is a love story between Will and Rosie. Opposites in every way. Will is so true to what he wants, while Rosie is so wrapped up in pleasing other people. Will and Rosie meet through Josh, Rosie's twin, who is getting tutored by Will in maths. And nothing for me sums up Will's attitude towards expectations than knowing that he is tutoring Will in a maths class so advanced that the two of them are the only people at their school taking it, and that Will, despite this, has absolutely no interest in going to university. He likes motorbikes and he wants to travel. Rosie, on the other hand, loves music, but is going to study history because that's what her parents expect. This is not just a teen romance. This novel takes place over a number of years, and it is about growing up and changing as well. More than being a romance, it tackles some big subjects like how to be happy and what is important in your life. The Memory of Animals by Claire Fuller. I don't think putting a Claire Fuller book on the long list is that risky. Her last novel, Unsettled Ground, was shortlisted, but the reason I'm including it in this risky category is because this book has divided opinions, and it represents a small change in direction for Fuller. Not that her style is different, but it is a lot more speculative than we are used to, blending sci-fi, dystopian and literary fiction, but in a way that seems really woman's prize to me. Neffy is a disgraced marine biologist who agrees to sign up as a patient to test a new vaccine against a pandemic. I think we're all sick of pandemic novels by now, but this really isn't a COVID novel. In fact, I'd say that this is more a cli-fi novel. Something goes wrong with the trial, and Neffy wakes up to all of her nurses and medical staff gone, and just 4 other patients for company. When one of the patients, Leon, has some controversial memory technology that essentially allows you to revisit and relive your memories, but it only works on certain people. Neffy just happens to be one of them. Neffy uses the technology to revisit her dad before he passed away, special events with her boyfriend, her love for a cephalopod, and the events that lead up to her being laden with debt and disgraced from the world of marine biology. I think I've kind of made that sound a little bit like a woman-fish erotica story. I just want to clarify that that definitely is not what this book is. Fuller uses this strange world to explore love, loneliness, isolation, and the human condition, and the question of what would it be like if you lived in a busy city like London and the entire human race died out. How different would that be? Your Driver is Waiting by Priya Guns. I think that this is probably the least likely from the 16 I've picked to make it, but I think it really adds to this list. It really rounds it out nicely, and it is just one hell of a fantastic book. Damini is a driver for one of them taxi-style apps who is making progressively less and less money while trying to support her mother, who is grieving the sudden loss of her husband. This is a book about what it's like when you don't have enough money to cover all your bills, when you have to pick between food, rent, and electricity. And I think Gunn's representation of this is accurate and empathetic and just nothing short of wonderful. Damini meets Jolene, a super attractive white woman. She's never dated a white woman before, so she's very self-conscious. Jolene wants to be an ally, but she just doesn't get it, and that creates a lot of conflict. And it's such an effective way of saying you can support class equality all you want with your voice. If you're wealthy, it's your money that will actually make a difference. How much of your allyship is about your own guilt? How much do you really understand what would make a difference to these people's lives? And, you know, from one perspective, I've been dirt poor. I've not been able to pay my bills. I know exactly what this feels like. I feel really seen by this novel. But also, I'm a male feminist. I'm a white anti-racist. I'm a straight LGBT ally. And a little bit, I'm being called out, which I think is wonderful. That's how we learn. And I think that almost any reader is going to identify differently with all of those things. And most of us are going to feel a combination of seen and called out. And that's just amazing. Also, this book is charmingly humorous between its hard-hitting dark themes. That is my 16 books. I really love The Woman's Prize. I'll be releasing that wild speculation video that I told you about based off how shiny the book descriptions are very soon. I'll also be reading the entire Longlist and reviewing all the books together. So if that's your thing, stick around, hit that subscribe button. I would also really appreciate it if you hit that like button, and if you have any readers in your life who enjoy The Woman's Prize, you don't have to, but it would really help me grow this channel if you shared this video with them. I'd like to thank my wonderful Patreons and my newest Patreon, Gemma. Your support means the world to me. If you'd like to read fiction with me and an amazing group of people, why not sign up? We read 2 books a month, one translated and one not, and you're free to join in whichever books you like. Before I go, the Woman's Prize for Non-Fiction was announced overnight. Now, I'm not a big non-fiction reader, and I've not read one of the books on this long list, but geez, it sounds like a cracking long list. I had no plans to read this long list, but after looking at all the books, I am definitely tempted. Vulture Capitalism and Some People Need Killing really stand out to me. How to Say Babylon, Eve, and Wifedom are all books I was interested in prior, and I would love to read them. Young Queens, All That She Carried, and Shadows at Noon all hit on historical topics I'm very interested in, as too does Codependency. I mean, it's about AI, not history, but it's a topic I'm interested in. All 4 are books I would love to have just waiting around on my shelves for the right mood to hit. The Britannias and Flatlands really pique my interest too. As you can see, I've just named over half the long list that I want to read. The remaining books that I didn't name will probably be the short list. They don't sound bad at all, but they just don't stand out to me. Some of the best books I've read didn't stand out to me when I first heard about it, so, you know, that's not a big deal, and this is a reaction to the long list, not a review of it. The only negative thing I will say about the long list is that 9 books were published by Penguin, and yeah, there's a lot of imprints of Penguin on this long list. Alan Lane is represented 3 times. Nothing against Penguin, they published some fantastic books, but I just would have liked to have seen a little bit more diversity in publishers there, but, you know, not at the expense of good books missing out. If the Woman's Prize for Fiction produces a long list as interesting and as captivating as the Woman's Prize for Non-Fiction has produced, I will be a very happy reader. Bye bye.